I don't care about her record, I said. Handle it. The room smelled like hand sanitizer and old flowers. Blair Sutton stood at the 7th floor window of Emory Ridge Medical Center. Her reflection stared back at her. Perfect hair, perfect suit, perfect posture. Below her, a nurse was cleaning out her locker. That nurse had no idea that Blair would be on her knees in this same hospital, begging that woman to save her daughter's life. But right now, in this moment, all Blair felt was power, and she liked it. Now, before I tell you what happened next, if you believe that how you treat people always comes back around, stay with me, because what happened to this woman, it will stay with you long after this story ends. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. She had one card left to play, and she didn't even hesitate. Blair Sutton was not a doctor. She was not a nurse. She had never drawn blood or read a chart or held a dying man's hand in the morning, but she controlled the money. And in a hospital, the person who controls the money controls everything. Blair sat on the board of directors at Emory Ridge Medical Center, one of the largest hospitals in Atlanta. She had earned that seat, fought for it, clawed her way from a tiny apartment in East Point to a corner office with a view of the Midtown skyline. Her parents came from Accra. Her father drove a taxi. Her mother cleaned office buildings until her knees gave out. They gave everything so Blair could become somebody. And she did. She ran the Sutton Health Foundation. She raised millions for cancer research. And she sat on 3 boards. She wore Chanel to Monday meetings and Dior to Friday galas. People respected her. People feared her. And Blair, she had stopped noticing the difference a long time ago. Her husband Royce told her once they were eating dinner at their home in Buckhead, just the 2 of them. Aria was upstairs studying. Blair, he said, you don't talk to people anymore. You talk at them. Blair didn't even look up from her phone. That's how things get done, Royce. He set down his fork. That's how things get broken. She didn't hear him. She was already reading an email about the hospital's quarterly budget. Royce shook his head. He picked up his plate and walked to the kitchen alone. That was the kind of woman Blair had become. Not evil, not cruel on purpose, just so far above everyone that she forgot what it felt like to be below. And that is the most dangerous kind of person, because they never see the damage until it's too late. At the hospital, Blair walked the halls like she owned them. She didn't say good morning to the nurses. She didn't learn the janitors' names. She walked past them like they were furniture. The doctor smiled when she entered a room, not because they liked her, because her signature approved their funding. And everyone knew if you got on Blair Sutton's bad side, your career at Emory Ridge was over. Everyone knew that. Everyone except one person, a nurse named Nia Brooks. She wasn't trying to be brave. She was just trying to do her job. But sometimes, that's the thing that gets you fired. Nia Brooks had been a nurse at Emory Ridge. She was slim, quiet, the kind of woman who entered a room so softly you didn't notice her until she was already fixing something. She grew up in Decatur. Her mother, Aria, was a retired school teacher from Kumasi, who raised Nia and her 2 younger brothers alone after their father passed. Aria had one rule in that house: treat every person like they matter, because they do. Nia carried that rule everywhere, to school, to nursing school, to every shift at the hospital. She knew every patient's name on her floor. She knew their children's names. She knew who was scared of needles and who needed the lights left on at night, and who just wanted someone to sit with them before surgery. The other nurses noticed. Lydia Hayes, the head nurse, pulled Nia aside one morning. "Brooks, you've been here and I've never gotten a single complaint about you, not one. Do you know how rare that is?" Nia smiled softly. "I just try to do what my mother taught me." Lydia nodded. "Well, whatever she taught you, it's working. Keep it up." Nia wasn't loud. She didn't post about her work on social media. She didn't seek praise or promotion. She just showed up every shift, every time. She was the kind of person who held the hospital together, and nobody even knew it until the day she held the wrong door. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Blair was rushing down the hallway on the 7th floor. She was late for a board meeting. Her heels clicked on the tile like gunshots. Her phone was pressed to her ear. Her assistant was talking about donor numbers. Nia was coming through a set of double doors with a cart of medical supplies. She saw Blair approaching and held the door open. "Here you go, ma'am." Blair walked through without looking at her, without pausing, without a nod. The cart caught on the door frame. One of the supply bins tipped and spilled. Gauze and gloves scattered across the floor. Nia knelt down and started picking them up. Blair stopped walking. She turned around, not because she wanted to help, because something had splashed on her shoe. She looked down. A small bottle of saline solution had rolled across the floor and bumped against her heel. A tiny drop had landed on her beige Louboutin. Blair stared at the drop. Then she stared at Nia. "What is this?" Nia looked up from the floor. She saw the drop on the shoe. Her stomach tightened. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It's just saline. It won't stain." "I can. Do you know how much these shoes cost?" Nia blinked. "I'm sorry. It was an accident. The cart caught on the I don't care what caught on what. You should be more careful." Nia stood up slowly. She kept her voice calm, respectful, the way her mother taught her. "You're absolutely right. I apologize." But something about the way Nia looked at her bothered Blair. It wasn't rude. It wasn't disrespectful. It was just steady. Nia wasn't afraid of her, and Blair was not used to that. She turned and walked away. But she looked back once. Nia was on her knees again, picking up supplies. Quiet, unbothered. Blair's jaw tightened. She didn't know why that moment stayed with her, but it did. Nobody saw it coming, except the one person who had already made up her mind. Blair's daughter, Aria, came to the hospital for a routine checkup. She was smart, sweet, studying pre-med at Emory. She wanted to be a pediatrician. Aria was nothing like her mother. She said, "Please and thank you." She smiled at strangers. She got that from Royce. Nia was assigned to Aria's intake, routine blood work, vitals, nothing complicated. Aria sat on the exam table and looked nervous. She didn't like needles. "Is it going to hurt?" she asked. Nia smiled. A little pinch. "That's it. You'll forget about it in seconds. Promise? Promise." Nia drew the blood quickly, cleanly. Aria barely flinched. "See?" Nia said. "All done." Aria laughed. "Okay, that wasn't bad at all. You're really good at this." "Practice," Nia said. "You get gentle or you get yelled at." They both laughed. That's when Blair walked in. She had come straight from a luncheon. She was wearing a cream Valentino blazer, gold earrings. Her presence filled the room like a change in air pressure. "Aria, are you done?" "Almost." "Mom, this nurse is amazing. I barely felt anything." Blair glanced at Nia. Her eyes narrowed. She recognized her. The shoe incident, the saline drop, the woman who knelt on the floor but didn't look afraid. "You," Blair said. Nia looked up. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Sutton. I didn't ask for you to be assigned to my daughter." The room went still. Aria looked confused. "Mom, what are you?" "Aria, I'll handle this." Blair didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone was a blade wrapped in silk. "I want a different nurse for my daughter's care immediately." Nia's heart was beating fast, but her voice stayed steady. "Mrs. Sutton, the intake is already complete. Everything went perfectly. If there's any concern, my concern is that I didn't approve of you being in this room. That is enough." Aria touched her mother's arm. "Mom, stop. She was great. She didn't do anything wrong." Blair pulled her arm away, gently but firmly. She looked at Nia one more time. "I want to speak with your supervisor now." Nia swallowed. "Of course, Mrs. Sutton." She walked out of the room. Her hands were steady, but inside, something was cracking. Blair was in Harlan Webb's office. Harlan was the hospital's CEO. He was calm, professional, and he owed a significant portion of the hospital's funding to the Sutton Health Foundation. "Harlan, I want that nurse removed from my daughter's care permanently." Harlan leaned forward. "Blair, Nurse Brooks has an exemplary record, no complaints. High patient satisfaction. She's one of our best. I didn't ask for her resume. I said I want her removed. Can you tell me what happened?" Blair paused. What could she say? That the nurse held a door? That saline touched her shoe? That the woman looked at her without flinching? She couldn't say any of that. Not out loud, because out loud it sounded like nothing. So, she said something worse. "She was rough with my daughter during the blood draw. Aria was uncomfortable. I don't trust her competence. It was a lie. A clean, deliberate, calculated lie." Harlan's face tightened. He didn't believe it. He had seen Nia's file. He had seen her patient reviews. But Blair Sutton's foundation donated $2.3 million to this hospital. $2.3 million. That's the weight that sat on his desk in that moment. "I'll look into it," he said. "Don't look into it, handle it." She stood up, straightened her blazer, and walked out. By the end of the day, Nia Brooks was called into Lydia Hayes' office. Lydia couldn't look her in the eye. "Nia, I don't know how to say this." "Then just say it. The board has requested your removal from the 7th floor, effective immediately." Nia didn't move. Removal for what? A complaint was filed regarding a patient interaction. By who? Lydia hesitated. "I can't disclose." "It was Mrs. Sutton, wasn't it?" Silence. Nia's voice shook for the first time. "Lydia, you know me. You said yourself. Not one complaint, not one." Lydia's eyes were wet. "I know." "Then how can you? It's not up to me." "Nia, I'm sorry it came from above." Above meant the board. Above meant money. Above meant Blair. Nia stood up slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She looked at Lydia with eyes that held early mornings and late nights, and patients who called her by name, and families who hugged her in the hallway. "I understand," she said, but she didn't. Not really. She cleaned out her locker that afternoon. 7th floor. The same floor where she had comforted hundreds of patients, and the same floor where she had held hands and changed bandages and whispered, "You're going to be okay," so many times that the words lived in her bones. She carried a small cardboard box to the elevator. Inside it, her extra scrubs, a photo of her mother, a thank you card from a patient's daughter. The elevator doors closed, and just like that, Nia Brooks was gone. She thought firing that nurse would make her feel powerful. It did for seconds. Blair didn't think about Nia after that day. That's the thing about people with power. They make decisions that destroy lives, and then they go to dinner. Blair went to a fundraiser that evening. She wore emerald green. She gave a speech about compassion in healthcare. People applauded. Someone called her a pillar of the community. She smiled. She went home. She kissed Aria goodnight. She climbed into bed next to Royce. "How was your day?" he asked. "Productive," she said. She turned off the light. That was it. That was the entire weight of what she had done, reduced to one word: productive. But the hospital felt the weight. The patients on the 7th floor felt it. Mrs. Delaney, recovering from hip surgery, pressed her call button the next morning. No one came. When she finally saw a nurse, it wasn't Nia. "Where's the young lady?" Mrs. Delaney asked. "The quiet one. She always came right away." "She's no longer on this floor, ma'am." Mrs. Delaney frowned. "Why not?" No one answered. Mr. Osei, diabetic, always anxious before his insulin check, sat in his bed and waited. Nia used to talk to him about his grandchildren while she checked his levels. She knew their names: Afia, Kofi, Nana. The new nurse didn't talk. She checked the numbers and left. Mr. Osei stared at the ceiling. Lydia Hayes noticed the difference. Complaint numbers on the 7th floor went up. Patient satisfaction scores dipped. Nothing catastrophic. Nothing that would make the news. Just a quiet absence, like a room that lost its warmth, and nobody could figure out why. Lydia knew why. She sat in her office one evening and stared at Nia's empty file folder. She thought about calling her, apologizing, explaining. But what could she say? "I let them fire you because I was afraid to fight for you. That's not an apology. That's a confession." So she said nothing, and Nia rebuilt. She spent weeks at her mother's house in Decatur. Ilara didn't ask questions at first. She just made jollof rice and set it on the table and sat with her daughter in the quiet. Nia told her everything: the door, the shoe, the lie, the firing. Ilara listened. She didn't interrupt. When Nia was done, her mother reached across the table and held her hand. "Do you remember what I always told you?" Nia nodded. Her eyes were wet. "Treat every person like they matter, because they do." "I did that, Mama. I did everything right, and they still, I know, and it hurts. But listen to me, Nia." Ilara squeezed her hand. "When someone punishes you for being good, that is not your burden. That is theirs. They will carry it. Maybe not today, but they will carry it." Nia wiped her eyes. "What do I do now?" Ilara smiled. "You do what you've always done. You help people." Nia found a job at Mercy Hill Free Clinic. It was a small clinic in South Atlanta that served uninsured patients. The pay was less than half of what she made at Emory Ridge. The hours were longer, the building was old, the supplies were thin, but the patients needed her, and Nia needed to be needed. She showed up on her first day in fresh scrubs. She introduced herself to every patient in the waiting room. She learned their names. Mercy Hill's patient satisfaction scores were the highest they'd ever been. Nobody wrote about it in the newspaper. Nobody gave a speech about it at a gala. But every person who sat in that waiting room knew that someone cared about them, and that someone was Nia. If this story is already pulling at you, stay with me, because what happens next changed everything. For Nia, for Blair, and for a girl who had no idea her life was about to depend on a woman her mother threw away. The phone call lasted seconds, and it ended Blair's world. After Nia was fired, Aria Sutton collapsed. She was at home a Sunday morning. She had been feeling tired. She thought it was stress from medical school. She had been studying too hard, not sleeping enough, not eating right. She came downstairs for breakfast. Royce was making eggs. Blair was reading the paper. Aria reached for a glass of orange juice, and then her legs gave out. She hit the kitchen floor. The glass shattered. Orange juice and broken glass spread across the tile. Aria. Royce dropped the pan and ran to her. Blair was already on her feet. Aria, baby, what happened? Aria's eyes were open, but they were unfocused. Her breathing was shallow. I can't feel my legs, Mom. Those words, 6 words. They split Blair's world in half. The ambulance came. They took Aria to Emory Ridge, the same hospital where her mother sat on the board, the same hospital where a nurse once drew her blood so gently she barely felt it. Barely. The doctors ran tests, blood panels, MRIs, CT scans. They ran everything. Dr. Elliot Shaw sat down with Blair and Royce in a private consultation room. He didn't smile. Mr. and Mrs. Sutton, your daughter has a rare autoimmune condition that is attacking her nervous system. It's aggressive and it's progressing faster than we'd like. Blair's mouth opened. No sound came out. Royce grabbed the arm of his chair. What does that mean? What do we do? Dr. Shaw exhaled. There is a treatment. It's a specialized procedure. Very few doctors in the country can perform it. We've identified the leading specialist. Then get him, Blair said. Her voice was sharp, commanding, the boardroom voice. Money is not an issue. Whatever it costs, whoever it is, get them. Dr. Shaw nodded slowly. His name is Dr. Malik Reed. He's based in Baltimore. He's agreed to come to Atlanta to evaluate Aria. Good. When? He arrives Thursday. Good. Blair stood up. She was shaking, but she locked her jaw and straightened her spine because that's what she always did. She turned her fear into control. Whatever he needs, he gets. Whatever the hospital needs to prepare, make it happen. I will call Harlan personally. She walked out of the room. Her heels clicked on the tile, but this time they didn't sound like power. They sounded like a woman trying not to fall apart. That night, Blair sat in Aria's hospital room. The monitors beeped softly. Aria was asleep. Her face was peaceful. She looked so young, so fragile. Blair held her daughter's hand. And for the first time in years, she didn't check her phone. She didn't answer emails. She didn't think about budgets or foundations or board meetings. She just sat there and she prayed. Please, she whispered, please don't take my daughter. I'll do anything. Royce stood in the doorway. He watched his wife. He hadn't seen her like this in years, stripped of armor, just a mother, terrified. He walked over and put his hand on her shoulder. She reached up and held it. They didn't speak. Some moments are too heavy for words. He had one requirement, and it was going to break her. Dr. Malik Reed arrived on Thursday. He was tall, silver-templed, calm in the way that only people who have held life in their hands can be calm. He had performed this procedure worldwide. Successes, losses. He didn't guarantee outcomes. He guaranteed effort. He reviewed Aria's case. He examined her. He studied every scan, every blood panel, every chart note. Then he sat down with Blair, Royce, and Harlan Webb in the hospital conference room. I can perform the procedure, he said. Aria is a good candidate, but the window is narrow. We need to move. Blair exhaled. Fine. Whatever you need, name it. Dr. Reed leaned back in his chair. He folded his hands. The procedure requires a specialized nursing protocol during and after the operation. The recovery is delicate. One mistake in post-operative care and the treatment fails. I need a nurse I trust, someone with specific training, someone I've worked with before. We have excellent nurses here. Harlan said, I'm sure you do, but I need one specific nurse. I've worked with her twice before. Once in Baltimore, once at a Mercy clinic in South Atlanta, where I volunteered. She is the best post-operative care nurse I have ever worked with. Her precision is extraordinary. Her patient manner is flawless. I will not perform this procedure without her on my team. Blair nodded impatiently. Fine. Who is she? We'll hire her, contract her, whatever it takes. Dr. Reed looked at Blair. His gaze was steady. Her name is Nia Brooks. The room went silent. Not the polite kind of silent. The kind where the air changes, where gravity shifts, where someone's past reaches forward and grabs them by the throat. Blair's face didn't move, but something behind her eyes crumbled. Harlan Webb looked at the table. He couldn't look at Blair. Royce looked at his wife. He didn't know the name, but he saw her reaction, and he knew something was very wrong. Blair, Royce said, what is it? She didn't answer. Dr. Reed continued, Miss Brooks used to work at this hospital. I understand she left. I need her brought back temporarily for the duration of the procedure and the recovery period. Harlan cleared his throat. Dr. Reed, Miss Brooks's departure from this hospital was complicated. I don't care about the politics. I care about the patient. Nia Brooks is the nurse I need. Without her, I will not operate. That is my condition, and it is non-negotiable. He said it calmly, without aggression, without threat, just fact. The way a man says something when he knows exactly what he's worth, and exactly what he will not compromise on. Blair sat in that chair and felt the walls closing in. The nurse she had fired over a drop of saline on a shoe. The nurse she had lied about to get removed. The nurse she had erased from this hospital without a second thought. That nurse was now the only person in the world who could help save her daughter's life. Fate doesn't knock. It walks right through the door you thought you locked. I'll handle it, Blair said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Dr. Reed nodded and stood. I need her here. The clock is already running. He shook Royce's hand. He nodded to Harlan, and he walked out. The door closed, and Blair Sutton sat in that conference room completely still for the first time in her life, with absolutely no idea what to do. She had destroyed this woman's career. Now she had to ask her for a miracle. Blair didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Royce was beside her, but she felt 1,000 miles away from everything. She kept hearing Dr. Reed's voice, Nia Brooks, 2 words, and they unraveled everything. In the morning, she got up. She went to her home office. She sat in the dark. She opened her laptop and searched the name Mercy Hill Free Clinic. Nurse Nia Brooks. There she was in a photo on the clinic's website, standing with a group of volunteers, smiling, wearing simple scrubs, surrounded by patients. She looked happy. Blair stared at that photo for a long time. She thought about what she had done. Not the sanitized version, she told herself. The real version, the ugly one. A nurse held a door for her. Supplies fell. A drop of saline touched her shoe. And because that nurse looked at her without fear, Blair decided to erase her. When she lied to the CEO, she called it a competence issue. She used her money, her name, her power to take away a woman's career. and she never thought about it again. Not once until now. Blair closed the laptop. She put her head in her hands. And she did something she hadn't done in years. She cried. Not the delicate kind, the ugly kind, the kind that comes from a place so deep you didn't even know it existed. The kind that shakes your whole body and doesn't stop. She cried because her daughter was sick. She cried because the one person who could help was the person she had destroyed. And she cried because for the first time, she saw herself clearly, and she didn't like what she saw. The next morning, Blair drove to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. She didn't send an assistant, she didn't call ahead, and she didn't bring a lawyer or a checkbook. She went alone. She parked in the small lot. The clinic was a converted church building. The paint was peeling on one side. The waiting room was full. Blair walked in. She was wearing a simple black dress. No jewelry except her wedding ring. No heels, flat shoes. The receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak with Nurse Nia Brooks, please. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent, please." The receptionist looked at her for a moment, then picked up the phone. Nia walked into the small hallway. She stopped when she saw Blair. The two women stood apart. The hallway was narrow. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Nia's face didn't change. She didn't gasp. She didn't flinch. She just looked at Blair with those same steady eyes. The same eyes that had bothered Blair. "Mrs. Sutton," Nia said, neutral, professional. "Ms. Brooks." Blair's voice cracked on the second syllable. She hadn't expected that. Silence. "Can we talk?" Blair asked. "Please." Nia studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "There's a bench outside." They walked through a side door to a small courtyard. A single tree gave shade over an old wooden bench. They sat. Blair stared at her hands. She had given the speeches to thousands of people. She had argued with senators and CEOs and billionaires. But she couldn't find words for this. Nia waited, patient the way she waited with every patient, the way she was built. Finally, Blair spoke. "My daughter is sick." Nia's expression shifted just slightly, a softening around the eyes. "Aria." Blair looked up surprised. "You remember her name?" "I remember every patient's name." That sentence hit Blair harder than she expected because she couldn't remember the name of the nurse she had fired. She had to look it up last night. Nia remembered. Blair forgot. And that gap between them said everything. "She has a rare autoimmune condition," Blair continued. Her voice was shaking now. She couldn't control it. "It's attacking her nervous system. There's a specialist, Dr. Reed. He can perform a procedure that might save her, but he has one condition." She looked at Nia. "He needs you." Nia didn't speak. "He says you're the best post-operative care nurse he's ever worked with. He won't perform the procedure without you. He was very clear about that." Nia looked at the tree, at the leaves moving in the wind. "So, you need me?" Nia said softly. "Yes. The same way your patients needed me before you had me fired." The words landed like stones dropped into still water. Blair's chin trembled. She pressed her lips together to hold herself. "Yes," she whispered. "The same way." More silence. "I know what I did to you," Blair said. "I know it was wrong. I know there's no excuse. You held a door for me and I punished you for it. I lied about you. I used my position to take your career and I didn't think about it. Not once. Not until last night. I sat at my computer in the morning and I searched your name and I saw you at this clinic helping people who have nothing. And I realized that I took a good person and threw her away Because my shoe got wet. Because you looked at me like I was just a person and I couldn't handle that. Tears were running down Blair's face. She wasn't wiping them. I am not here to offer you money. I am not here to threaten you or pressure you. I am here because my daughter is dying, and the doctor says you are the only one who can help. And I know, I have no right to ask you for anything. She looked at Nia. But I am asking. Nia sat on that bench. The wind moved through the courtyard. A bird sang somewhere in the tree above them. She thought about the day she cleaned out her locker, the elevator doors closing, the weeks at her mother's house, the tears she cried into her pillow when she thought Alara couldn't hear. And she thought about the job she'd lost, the pay cut, the months of doubt. She thought about all of it. And then she thought about Aria, sitting on an exam table, scared of needles, laughing when the blood draw didn't hurt. Promise, Aria had said. Promise, Nia had answered. Nia looked at Blair. What time does Dr. Reed need me at the hospital? Blair's breath caught. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her shoulders shook. Thursday? Thursday morning. Nia nodded. I'll be there. Blair broke completely. She bent forward on that bench and sobbed, not the composed, controlled woman who ran foundations and silenced boardrooms, just a mother, terrified and grateful and ashamed all at once. Nia didn't touch her. She didn't hug her. That wasn't what this moment needed. She just sat there steady present, the way she always was. She walked back into the hospital that fired her, and she didn't walk in for them. She walked in for a girl who once asked her to promise Thursday morning. Nia Brooks walked through the front doors of Emory Ridge Medical Center. She was wearing clean scrubs. Her ID badge was temporary. Her name was printed in fresh ink. The security guard looked at her badge and nodded. Welcome back. She walked to the elevator, pressed 7. The doors closed. When they opened on the 7th floor, Lydia Hayes was standing there. Her eyes were red. She had been waiting. Nia. Lydia. Lydia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm sorry. I should have fought for you. I should have. I know, Nia said gently, but that's not why I'm here today. Lydia nodded. She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Aria's in room 714. Dr. Reed is prepping. He's expecting you. Then let's go. They walked together down the hallway, past the nurse's station, past the rooms where Nia used to work, past the spot where a supply cart once caught on a doorframe, and a bottle of saline changed 2 lives forever. Nia didn't. Look at that spot. She looked straight ahead. She had a patient to save. The procedure took hours. Dr. Reed led the surgical team. Nia was in the room for every second, monitoring vitals, adjusting drip rates, watching the numbers that told the story of a young woman's nervous system fighting to survive. There was a moment. Aria's blood pressure dropped. The monitors screamed and the surgical team tensed. Nia moved before anyone spoke. She adjusted the IV, checked the line, recalibrated the dosage. Her hands were fast, precise, absolutely steady. Dr. Reed glanced at her. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He nodded once. The blood pressure stabilized. The room exhaled. In the waiting room, Blair sat in a plastic chair. Royce was beside her. He held her hand. She held his so tight her knuckles were white. She had sat in this hospital 100 times in leather chairs, in corner offices, in boardrooms with catered lunches, always in control, always above. Now she sat in a plastic chair in a waiting room below everything, powerless, praying. And the person she was praying for was working upstairs. The person she had tried to erase hours. Every minute felt like a year. Dr. Reed walked into the waiting room. Blair stood up so fast she knocked her purse off the chair. He looked at her and he smiled. The procedure was successful. Aria is stable. Her neural responses are already improving. She's going to need weeks of careful post-operative care, but the prognosis is strong. Blair's legs buckled. Royce caught her. She pressed her face into his chest and wept. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you. Thank you." Dr. Reed held up his hand. "Don't thank me alone. Thank Nurse Brooks." When Aria's pressure dropped, Nia caught it before anyone else in the room. If she had been slower, we would be having a very different conversation right now. Seconds. That's how thin the line was between life and loss. And on that line stood a nurse who had every reason in the world to say no. That evening, Blair walked into Aria's recovery room. Aria was awake, drowsy, pale, but alive. Her eyes were open. Her fingers were moving. The monitors beeped softly and steadily. Nia was there, checking the charts, adjusting the pillow. When Aria saw Nia, she smiled. "Hey," Aria whispered, "I know you." Nia leaned down. "You do? You're the nurse who promised it wouldn't hurt." Nia's eyes glistened. "I remember." "You were right," Aria said. "It didn't hurt." Nia squeezed her hand gently. "You're going to be just fine." Blair stood in the doorway. She watched this moment. The nurse and the daughter, the gentleness, the care. She thought about all the times she had walked past nurses in this hallway without seeing them, without knowing them, without understanding that they were the ones who held this place together. She thought about power, real power, not the kind that comes from money or titles or boardroom seats, the kind that comes from choosing grace when you have every right to choose revenge. The kind that kneels beside a scared girl and says, "I promise." The kind that walks back into a building that threw you away and saves a life. That's power. And it belonged to a woman in scrubs who made half of what Blair's shoes cost. Aria was discharged. She walked out of the hospital on her own 2 feet. Royce was on one side. Jasmine, her best friend, was on the other. Blair was there too, but she wasn't walking to the car. She was standing at the nurse's station waiting. Nia came around the corner with a chart in her hand. Ms. Brooks. Nia stopped. "Mrs. Sutton, I want to say something to you, and I want you to hear all of it." Nia set down the chart. She gave Blair her full attention. "What I did to you was the worst thing I have ever done. I lied. I used my power to hurt an innocent person. And I did it because you looked at me like I was equal. And somewhere along the way, I had convinced myself that I was above everyone, that my money and my name made me more." Her voice was trembling, but she didn't stop. "My mother cleaned office buildings until her body broke. My father drove a taxi in the rain so I could go to college. They taught me to be humble, to be grateful, and I forgot every word they said." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This is a formal letter to the hospital board. I am resigning from my seat. And in this letter, I have told the truth. The full truth about what I did to you, about why you were fired, about the lie I told." Nia's lips parted slightly. She hadn't expected this. "I have also recommended to Harlan Webb that you be offered a full-time position back at Emory Ridge, senior floor nurse with back pay for every month you missed." "Mrs. Sutton, you don't have to." "Yes, I do, because my daughter is alive because of you, and you almost weren't here because of me." I have to live with that, and the only way I can live with it is by telling the truth. She held out the envelope. Nia looked at it. She didn't take it. Instead, she looked at Blair. I don't need you to resign. I don't need back pay, and I don't need to come back to this hospital. Blair's face fell. What I need, Nia said, is for you to go home. Look at your daughter. Remember how it felt when you thought you might lose her and carry that feeling into every room you walk into for the rest of your life. She paused. That's my condition. Blair's hand, holding the envelope, dropped to her side. Her chin trembled. I carried anger for a long time, Mrs. Sutton, after you fired me. I won't lie about that. There were nights I wanted you to feel what I felt, to lose something, to be brought low. Her voice softened. But my mother told me something. She said, when someone punishes you for being good, that is not your burden. That is theirs. She looked at Blair with those steady eyes, the same eyes, unchanged. You've been carrying it. I can see that now, and I think that's enough. Blair couldn't stop the tears, and they fell down her face. And she didn't wipe them. She stood in the hallway of the hospital she used to rule, completely bare, completely human. Nia, go home, Mrs. Sutton. Be with your daughter. That's all that matters. Nia picked up her chart. She nodded once, and she walked down the hallway. Blair watched her go. The scrubs, the quiet walk, the steady posture. She whispered something so softly that no one heard it. Thank you. Blair went home. She sat in the kitchen. Aria was on the couch watching TV, laughing at something on her phone. Alive, breathing, whole. Royce sat down across from Blair. He took her hand. What happened at the hospital? I tried to give her everything. She didn't want any of it. What did she want? Blair looked at her husband. Her eyes were swollen. Her makeup was gone, and she looked older than she had. She wanted me to remember. Royce squeezed her hand. Then remember the next Sunday, Blair drove to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. She didn't go inside. She parked across the street. She watched patients walk in and walk out. She watched Nia through the window, helping an elderly man with a cane, adjusting a child's bandage, smiling. Blair opened her checkbook. She wrote a check. She walked to the front door. She slipped it under the door. The check was for $500,000, made out to Mercy Hill Free Clinic. There was no note, no name on the memo line, no foundation logo, just the money. And on the drive home, Blair Sutton did something she hadn't done in a very long time. She rolled down the window. She felt the Atlanta wind on her face. She took a deep breath, and she started over. Some people use power to destroy. Others use grace to rebuild. Blair had the title, the money, the name. But she had lost something far more valuable. She had lost her humanity. And Nia had nothing but her hands, her heart, and a promise her mother taught her. Treat every person like they matter, because they do. The proud are not punished by others. They are punished by the weight of their own choices. And the only relief is truth. Nia didn't need revenge. She didn't need Blair's money, or her apology, or her resignation. She needed her to remember, because remembering is the beginning of change. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because every story we tell carries a lesson. And the next one, it might be the one that changes how you see someone forever. In the sterile glow of a hospital hallway, where arrogance once reigned supreme, unfolds a heart-wrenching reminder that true power lies not in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the quiet grace of compassion we extend to others. Blair Sutton, draped in luxury and entitlement, wielded her influence like a weapon, firing nurse Nia Brooks over a mere drop of saline on her designer shoe, a trivial slight that masked her deeper insecurity about being seen as just another human. Blinded by her elevated status, Blair forgot the humble roots her parents toiled to give her, trampling on the dignity of those beneath her without a backward glance. Yet, life's cruel poetry brought her to her knees when her beloved daughter Aria's life hung by a thread, ravaged by a rare illness. The specialists' demand. Nia, the very woman Blair had discarded, whose steady hands and unyielding kindness proved indispensable in the operating room, stabilizing Aria's faltering vital signs in those pivotal seconds. Nia's choice to forgive, to heal despite the betrayal, shatters the soul. It's a testament to the unbreakable strength of humility, echoing Alara's wisdom. Treat every person like they matter, because they do. This story pierces the heart, forcing us to confront our own moments of callous judgment, the invisible scars we inflict when we prioritize ego over empathy. In a world quick to elevate the proud and overlook the gentle, it begs us to pause, to see the humanity in the overlooked cashier, the weary janitor, the dedicated nurse, for one day, their grace might be our salvation. Let this tale linger as a beacon. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the thread that mends broken lives, turning regret into redemption. Blair's transformation, from tyrant to humbled mother, whispers that change begins with remembrance, urging us all to build bridges instead of walls. If this stirred your emotions, or reminded you of a time when kindness, or its absence, changed everything, share your story in the comments below. Your experiences could touch someone else's heart. And if you're moved by tales that reveal life's deepest truths, subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Join our community for more inspiring narratives that challenge us to be better, one story at a time.